The Incredibles. A super fun film filled with action and entertainment for the whole family. The movie stars a city called Metroville, which is run by superheroes. Not to be confused with Metro City, or as Megamind likes to call it, Metrocity. Our two main heroes are Bob, aka Mr. Incredible, played by Craig T. Nelson, who has super strength, and Helen, aka Elastigirl, played by Holly Hunter. The two superheroes fall in love and end up tying the knot. But due to legal issues and an incident that happened with Mr. Incredible, superheroes became outlawed. And now every superhero is forced to live normal everyday lives undercover. And 6 years later, Bob and Helen are now living a married life with 3 kids. Their teenage daughter Violet, who can turn invisible and produce force fields. Their 10-year-old son Dash, whose name is self-explanatory. And their infant son Jack, whose powers are unknown at this point. Bob works an everyday office job and longs for the glory days of being a superhero. And he's also put on a lot of weight since he was a superhero. Bob finally gets his chance when he is summoned to an island by a young woman named Mirage, played by Elizabeth Pena. They need Mr. Incredible's help to fight off an evil robot called the Omnidroid. And after a fierce fight that leads them to a volcano, Mr. Incredible succeeds in defeating the robot. Feeling more confident than ever before, Bob decides to do some training in order to lose weight. Bob then gets another call from Mirage to come back to the island to do some more work there. But once he gets to the island, he finds out that he had been set up by an evil villain. He's beaten up by a much stronger Omnidroid until the villain of the film reveals himself to be a villain called Syndrome, played by Jason Lee, who turns out to be Buddy Pine, who dressed up as Incrediboy and wanted to be Mr. Incredible's sidekick during the early days. And his plan is to eliminate all superheroes so then he can pretend to be a superhero and give everyone powers so then nobody can be super. This plan is kinda messed up, but the one true thing Syndrome ever said was that you can't count on anyone, especially your heroes. Honestly, that couldn't be any more true. But anyway, back to the review. Once she becomes suspicious of her husband's disappearance, Helen goes out to look for Bob. And Dash and Violet stow away while they get a babysitter for Jack. They escape the island and manage to make it back to Metroville, where they have to fight a giant Omnidroid. Working together and with the help of a superhero named Frozone, played by Sam L. Jackson, they are able to defeat the robot. But Syndrome captures Jack and plans to raise him as his son and to get revenge on the Incredibles. He's eventually defeated when he gets his cape caught in a propeller, which was foreshadowed earlier in the film by a woman named Edna Mode, played by Brad Bird himself. She's basically the costume designer for the superheroes. And the film ends with the Incredibles about to fight the Underminer, who is played by John Ratzenberger. Overall, The Incredibles was such a fun film. And for a movie that came out 20 years ago, it still holds up. The action is great, the animation is phenomenal as always in a Pixar film, and the story is just very compelling. Overall, I give this movie a 10 out of 10. It's a great film, one of my favorite Pixar films next to Monsters, Inc., and it's just an overall excitement.